The brand new open world Star Wars game by Ubisoft, Star Wars Outlaws, is just under a month away, and Ubisoft gave me the tremendous honor of taking an early look at it. I'm Mesa Windu, and today we're going to be talking about my 4-hour experience playing Star Wars Outlaws, so please enjoy. This is kind of a new thing for me. I'm usually not used to getting like advanced reviews out or anything like that. I feel very special, so I realize this is a great situation for me. I went into it, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a bit skeptical about the game going in. It was something that I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I wasn't a huge fan of The Division, not necessarily because I thought it was a bad game, it just wasn't my cup of tea. I know that, like, based on the gameplay I saw in the trailers, it kind of gave me Division 2 vibes, and that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just could be depending on the type of game that you're into. So, since this is a first impression, I can't give you a comprehensive review of the entire story. I can't give you a comprehensive review of every single blaster or fighting style that we managed to unlock before I was done playing, but I can give you a taste of what to maybe possibly kind of expect going in when you presumably get the game at the end of August or beyond. So I'm not going to go into super big detail. So to get the first question out of the way, did I enjoy my experience? I would say yes. One thing that it already feels like they captured was the atmosphere of the game. It definitely feels like a Star Wars adventure. The first planet that we played on felt so richly done. It felt like Ubisoft's team really took their time with it, and it really feels like you kind of are walking into a Star Wars world. And I know that's easy to say, but it feels like this did a better job than most in terms of recreating the atmosphere of Star Wars. So props to them for that. It's an absolutely wonderful world. So in terms of aesthetic, yes, it very much is Star Wars, complete with the side gadgets, the weapons, the fighting style even really feels typical Han Solo run and gun kind of situation. Every single open world map that we played on was absolutely enormous. I am fairly certain that I did not have an opportunity to check out all of it at all. There were tons of side missions that were options that you could do. There were tons of side quests. Now, I was not one of the people that talked about the game being a deal breaker, that it didn't have a create your own character kind of system, but I was curious to see how the customization was going to work in this game, and it's a healthy list of customization options. You can change your clothes, you can change your outfits. There are some special outfits you can get if you like do all of like the side missions and maximize your standing with each syndicate. There was a really cool ISB styled uniform that K-Vest could wear, and I think you get that one if you max out the Crimson Dawn stuff. But if you're looking for a really in-depth character customizer or like outfit changer, at least from the 4 hours I played, it didn't really look like there were a lot of options there. Now, when the full game comes out, there could be more. I hope there are more options, but I didn't really see anything like that. There were, the outfits that we did get were cool, but it felt more in the vein of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which didn't have a bad character customizer, but any game, in my opinion, that has an open world advertisement, I think the character customizer, the character editor is a really important part of it. And like with Red Dead Redemption 2 and Arthur Morgan, they've proven and they've perfected the idea that even though you are stuck with this character, you can do so much with that character's look and design, and it's still Roger Clark's Arthur Morgan. With K-Vest, there's a lot of cool options for her, and don't get me wrong, the outfits are really cool. I just wish there was more, and I was a bit disappointed about that. The space combat is about what you would expect. It reminded me a lot of Starfield. I played Starfield a ton when it first came out. I haven't really played it a lot since, but one of the things that really stuck out to me was the starship combat, and this kind of reminded me a lot of that. One of the major pluses for Starfield was its ability to take off into space and check out all of this other stuff, and even though Star Wars Outlaws wasn't quite as in-depth, nearly as much, they don't have generated worlds. There are 5 worlds that you can go to. The first time I took off in K-Vest's ship, when you leave that planet that you're on, the music that plays, gosh, the music is the highlight. The music is always the highlight in these games, but I digress. going into space in a Star Wars vehicle and hearing K-Vess quip and laugh and joke around about that stuff, it was a lot of fun. I got lost in it. And the ship-to-ship combat was absolutely fantastic. Really easy to get the hang of it. It's not like you're playing Battlefield or anything like that. It's pretty easy. You can boost, you can shoot missiles, you can do maneuvers. It's really cool. I mean, I kind of hope if they ever do like a Rogue Squadron video game, that's kind of what they follow. I actually had a lot of fun with what they were able to do with Star Wars Outlaws, the ship combat, and especially considering that it wasn't the main attraction of the game. You can walk by people who are having like random conversations, in-world conversations. The NPCs are very likable. K-Vess is a pretty likable protagonist. Again, I've only gotten to know her for about 4 hours, but she seems charming. She is what I would imagine an ambitious rookie smuggler would be like. She's determined, she has a good sense of humor, she improvises a lot. She reminds me a lot of Han Solo, and I know that's kind of easy to say that, but she does remind me a lot of Han Solo, and it shows you how good of a smuggler Han Solo is, because a lot of his smuggle ability is based on his ability to bullshit people, and K-Vess does that in spades. There were a lot of moments where I laughed at it. The syndicates were really cool. Again, I didn't really get a good look at all of them, which is the most frustrating part about them, because each one was really, really awesome. The Pike Syndicate, the Crimson Dawn, there was a new like bug syndicate, and I'm hoping that we get a lot more about them, but I like how each one has their own special criminal specialty. Each one has their own really well-fitting in-world universe explanation for why they do what they do and why the Empire kind of lets them be. There's kind of like a neutral truce kind of thing, which I talked about a little bit in the past, how the Empire, in certain areas, the Empire kind of relies in a weird way on the, ironically, stability of criminal syndicates in certain areas. They don't want to rock the boat too much because they know that syndicates can help them do things that they couldn't normally do otherwise. So it's really cool to see how their dynamic is, and I'm interested to see where that goes. The Pike Syndicate and Crimson Dawn might be my favorites, though. Now, Ubisoft stressed to me that this was an early version of the game, and it's not necessarily going to absolutely be like this when the game comes out on August 30th. But that being said, I thought there were some performance issues. The game felt a little jittery at times. The combat was fun enough, but it also felt like it was kind of rigid. It was a little stiff, for the lack of a better term, wooden, if you will. And a lot of that could have just been me getting the hang of the combat style. Again, I wasn't a big Division 2 player. People who are major Division 2 players might think the combat is top notch. I thought it was fun enough, but that was probably one of my bigger complaints about the entire 4-hour playthrough. Wasn't a big fan of how jolted and jittery the combat was. There were a lot of cool combat situations to be in. The sneak around kind of mechanic reminded me a little bit of Assassin's Creed. There were a lot of oh crap moments. You're able to use Nyx, who's your pet companion buddy friend, fur baby, and you can get him to distract or attack or play dead in front of like an approaching stormtrooper squad. It's a lot of fun to use him, and he's gotten me out of a lot of trouble in terms of like, oh god, here comes a patrol and I don't have the ammo to fight these guys, so I need him to distract so that I can get away. So there are some cool combat mechanics there. There's a lot of cool combat moves there, and there's a lot that you can do to get out of a problem or anything like that. But again, the performance itself, like, you know, it wasn't what I would consider top notch. It didn't feel smooth like other games that specialize in combat. Talked a little bit about the music already. I kind of hinted what I thought about it, but oh my gosh, whoever is doing the Star Wars music, keep giving them that opportunity. The music is absolutely spectacular. It really stuck out at the beginning when you first meet K-Vess. It really stuck out when you first take off in her ship the first time. And the ambient music, when you just walk around the towns and walk around the cities, it's almost like you get lost. It feels very Star Wars, for the lack of a better term. And I'm a sucker for Star Wars music. Word to John Williams, word to the Kiners. But if there was anything that I could give a perfect 10 out of 10 on, it was absolutely the music, and I think that's not going to change when the full game comes out and there's a full review on that. Like with most Ubisoft games, there is a lot to do. Even in my 4 hours, and even though there was a little bit of a limited scope of what I was doing, I could tell that there's a lot of stuff that you could grind on, a lot of stuff that you could get lost in. And that's definitely the case. Now, I haven't seen enough of the side missions to see how similar or different they are, but in terms of if you want to go in and be a completionist, you're definitely going to be able to do that. I think it's going to take a while to 100% this game, just on the 4 hours that I played. I only got one small glimpse at the antagonist of the entire game, and I'm intrigued. K-Vest gets in a lot of hot water, and whatever happens ends up drawing the ire of one of the most powerful criminal syndicates in the entire galaxy. He sends one of the top bounty hunters after her. It's really interesting to see how that's going to play out. And I've only played 4 hours of this game. I really wish I played more, but the antagonist seems like a commanding presence, and I hope that continues to stay the same. In my 4-hour playthrough, I saw no major cameos. I have a feeling that when the full game comes out, you're going to at least run into a few. I would be shocked if Boba Fett was not in this game, but I will say in the 4 hours that I played, he did not show up. We know Kira's going to show up, though. We already know Carbonite. Han Solo's going to show up, and he's probably not ever going to leave Carbonite. So when you see him in the Carbonite, he's probably going to stay that way. It's probably a matter of trying to figure out how to get him to Jabba's palace. It's probably a cool side mission or something like that. So Jabba the Hutt's in the game. Since this is happening in the middle of the Galactic Civil War between episodes 5 and 6, because Han Solo is in Carbonite, we're going to get a lot of in-world references to what's been going on with that as well. We might run into some pretty big surprises. I will say I did not run into any of them in my 4 hours of playing. But from the little I got from the story, it seems like an intriguing look into the Star Wars galaxy. I always said, from the moment this game came out and got announced and we knew what it was about, people were saying, I'm tired of the OT trilogy. I'm tired of the original trilogy. I'm tired of episode 5, episode 6. I'm tired of Stormtroopers versus Rebels. I'm tired of all of that. And I think all of that is valid. But I will say that we have not gotten a close enough look at the underbelly of that era. Criminal syndicates, space mafia, essentially. And the fact that this game is almost exclusively about the underworld of Star Wars, and the Empire and the Galactic Civil War is more of a backdrop, if anything. The Stormtroopers are basically like GTA cops. I mean, there's incidences when you'll run into them in the story, but it's not a defeat the Empire situation, at least as it stands right now. Your enemy is another criminal syndicate, and they play by different rules, and I find that a lot of fun. But all in all, I enjoyed it. I hope it's an honest enough review of my first impressions. I don't mean to puff piece it. I never intended on puff piecing it or anything like that. It was an exciting situation, and I tried my best to not put on any rose-tinted glasses, and I hope that that's what Ubisoft wanted from me in the first place. I hope, at least. If you don't want to invite me back, I guess I know why. But no, in all seriousness, it was a lot of fun. Based on what I played, I probably will get it, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It's really easy for me to get locked into any kind of new story. I thought the voice performances were solid enough. Combat is fun, even though it's a bit jolty and disjointed, and a part of me just wants to trust that it was an earlier version of the game, but I have a weird feeling that it's not just an earlier version of the game. There might be some getting used to in that regard. Again, if it's anything like that in The Division 2, then maybe you'll be more used to it. It was just, at times it was a bit much for me. The highlight wasn't even the combat for me. The highlight was actually following the story and looking at the new stuff that you could do to get out of the hair of a stormtrooper. You can even diffuse situations and stuff like that. You can like improvise and stuff like that, and that's always been that's a new feature that I was actually a big fan of. But all in all, it was a fun time. I enjoyed it. It was a nice 4-hour sit through. All of the maps are absolutely gorgeous. They capture everything it means to be in the Star Wars world, Star Wars universe. Overall, I am pretty excited to check it out again at the end of August, early September. In the coming weeks, I will be releasing more footage from my playthrough of Star Wars Outlaws. Probably some of it's going to be some B-roll footage. I have 4 hours worth of it, so where is all the other footage going to go? I'm not going to just let it sit there. And I guess if you made me give an assessment, too long, didn't watch, skip to the end. If you're a big fan of Ubisoft games, I've said Ubisoft and Ubisoft, I forgot which one it was. If you're a big fan of Ubisoft games, you'll probably get a blast out of this one. If you're a big Star Wars fan but not a big Ubisoft fan, I still think you'll probably enjoy it. The atmosphere is there, the combat's fun enough, there's enough there to keep you interested, at least until the end of the game. Now, I can tell you right now, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, in the 4 hours I played, I don't think it's winning any Game of the Year awards, but ultimately I do think it's a fun time, and it's about time that other game studios got their hands on Star Wars. I think the people that designed it did an admirable job, and they might surprise me in the full game. But I hope this was an honest enough review of my first impressions of the game, and if you guys have any thoughts or questions or anything like that, please let me know in the comments section, and make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you're among the first to see any new content going forward. As always, this is Mesa Windu out, and remember, the Force will be with you always.